It was a Wednesday afternoon, November 24th, 1971. The air was crisp and the hustle and bustle of holiday travelers filled Portland International Airport. People were busy with their own lives, unaware that history was about to be made. At Portland International Airport, a man using the name Dan Cooper purchased a one-way ticket on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. His destination, Seattle, Washington. He paid $20 in cash, a small sum for what would become an unforgettable journey. Cooper, dressed in a business suit and tie, boarded the Boeing 727 like any other passenger. He carried a black briefcase and wore dark sunglasses, blending seamlessly with the other travelers. He ordered a bourbon and soda, lit a cigarette, and settled into seat 18C. The flight attendants noted his calm demeanor, thinking he was just another businessman on a routine trip. Nothing about him screamed danger. He was polite, well-mannered, and seemed to be in no rush. The other passengers paid him little attention, engrossed in their own activities. Nothing hinted at the extraordinary events that were about to unfold. The flight took off smoothly, and the passengers settled in for the short trip to Seattle. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper passed a note to the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner. She initially thought it was just another passenger trying to flirt with her. The note's message was simple and chilling. "I have a bomb in my briefcase." Schaffner's heart raced as she read the words. This was no ordinary flight. Schaffner, initially skeptical, glanced at the contents of his briefcase. She saw wires and red sticks resembling dynamite. Her skepticism turned to fear. Inside, she saw wires and red sticks resembling dynamite. Fear gripped her. This was no hoax. She quickly informed the cockpit crew of the dire situation. The news of the hijacking quickly spread through the cockpit and then to the authorities on the ground. The pilots remained calm, trying to keep the passengers unaware of the unfolding crisis. A sense of urgency filled the air traffic control tower. Controllers scrambled to reroute other flights and prepare for any possible outcomes. The gravity of the situation was clear. Flight 305, now under the control of a mysterious hijacker, became a focal point of a nationwide drama. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies were alerted, and a plan was quickly put into motion. Little did anyone know this seemingly ordinary flight would evolve into one of the most baffling mysteries in aviation history. The name Dan Cooper, or DB Cooper as he would later be known, would become synonymous with one of the greatest unsolved crimes of the 20th century. Cooper's demands were specific. He wanted $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, a sum that would be worth over $1 million today. The bills were to be in a specific denomination, ensuring they were easy to handle and less traceable. This demand alone showcased Cooper's meticulous planning and understanding of law enforcement tactics. But it wasn't just the money that intrigued the authorities. Cooper also demanded 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve. This unusual request raised eyebrows and added layers to the mystery. The request for multiple parachutes suggested that Cooper might take a hostage with him, or perhaps he wanted to create confusion about his true intentions. It was a clever move, ensuring that the authorities couldn't sabotage the parachutes without risking innocent lives. This demand hinted at a daring escape plan, one that involved jumping from a moving aircraft in mid-air. Such a feat required not only courage, but also significant knowledge of skydiving and aviation. The authorities, caught off guard by the audacity of the demands, had no choice but to comply. They were dealing with an unknown adversary who seemed to have thought of everything. While the FBI scrambled to gather the ransom money and parachutes, Flight 305 circled over Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The plane's continuous circling added to the tension as fuel levels became a concern. Inside the plane, the atmosphere was tense. Passengers, unaware of the negotiations taking place below, could only speculate about their fate. Whispers and worried glances were exchanged as the uncertainty gnawed at everyone on board. The fear of the unknown loomed large. Some passengers tried to stay calm by engaging in small talk, while others sat in silence, lost in their thoughts. The crew did their best to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but the anxiety was palpable. Cooper, throughout the ordeal, remained remarkably calm and collected. His demeanor was almost unnerving, as if he had rehearsed the scenario countless times. He exuded a quiet confidence that kept the crew on edge. He spoke little, issuing instructions to the crew while chain-smoking cigarettes. Each puff of smoke seemed to underscore his control over the situation. His calmness was in stark contrast to the growing tension around him. As the hours ticked by, the FBI meticulously assembled the ransom money. Each bill was carefully counted and documented, a painstaking process that took time. They photographed each bill, hoping to track them if Cooper ever spent the money. This level of detail was crucial, as it provided the only tangible link to Cooper if he managed to escape. The parachutes, a crucial element of Cooper's plan, were also carefully selected. The authorities inspected each one, ensuring they were in perfect working condition. They couldn't afford any mistakes. Little did they know that this meticulous attention to detail would provide the only tangible clues in a case that would span decades. The FBI's efforts to document every aspect of the ransom and parachutes would become a cornerstone in the investigation, as they tried to piece together the puzzle of Cooper's audacious plan. With the ransom money and parachutes on board, Cooper instructed the pilots to set course for Mexico City. The tension in the cockpit was palpable as the pilots exchanged nervous glances, fully aware of the gravity of the situation. Cooper, calm and composed, reiterated his demands, ensuring there was no room for negotiation or error. He demanded the plane fly at a low altitude and with the rear air stair deployed. This unusual request puzzled the crew, but they had no choice but to comply. The low altitude would make the jump feasible, and the open air stair was a clear indication of his escape plan. The pilots, fearing for the safety of themselves and the passengers, reluctantly complied. They knew that any resistance could provoke a dangerous reaction from Cooper. The atmosphere in the cockpit was thick with anxiety as they followed his instructions to the letter. At approximately 8 p.m., somewhere over the Lewis River Valley in southwest Washington state, Cooper took action. The vast, dark expanse of the valley below was both a daunting and perfect escape route. The dense forests and rugged terrain would provide ample cover for his getaway. He ordered the crew to remain in the cockpit, and then with the engine noise masking his movements, he lowered the rear air stair. The roar of the engines was deafening, but it provided the perfect cover for his next move. The crew, confined to the cockpit, could only guess at what was happening behind them. With the $200,000 strapped to his body and a parachute on his back, Cooper stepped into the night sky. The cold wind whipped around him as he made his daring leap, disappearing into the inky blackness below. It was a leap of faith, a calculated risk that would either make him a legend or cost him his life. The pilots, feeling the change in pressure, knew what had happened. Cooper had jumped. The sudden shift in the plane's balance confirmed their worst fears. They quickly radioed in the situation, reporting the hijacker's departure and their current position. He had vanished into the darkness and the rugged wilderness below. The vast expanse of forest and the pitch-black night provided the perfect cover for his escape. It was as if he had been swallowed by the night itself, leaving no trace behind. Flight 305, now free of its captor, landed safely in Reno, Nevada. The relief among the passengers and crew was palpable as the plane touched down. The nightmare was over, but the mystery was just beginning. The passengers, relieved to be alive, were immediately whisked away by the FBI. They were questioned extensively, each detail scrutinized in the hopes of finding a clue that could lead to Cooper's capture. The ordeal had left them shaken but grateful to be unharmed. The search for D.B. Cooper, the man who had pulled off one of the most audacious hijackings in history, had begun. Teams scoured the dense forests and rugged terrain, but Cooper seemed to have vanished without a trace. The legend of D.B. Cooper was born that night, a mystery that would captivate the world for decades to come. The FBI launched a massive investigation, codenamed NORJAC, for Northwest hijacking. Agents swarmed the suspected drop zone, a vast and unforgiving wilderness of dense forests, steep ravines, and fast-flowing rivers. They interviewed witnesses, combed through flight logs, and analyzed the ransom money. Every lead was pursued, every tip investigated. Despite their efforts, the investigation initially yielded little. The darkness, the weather, and the rough terrain hampered search efforts. Cooper, it seemed, had vanished without a trace. The only physical evidence recovered was a small portion of the ransom money, discovered years later by a young boy playing along the Columbia River. The lack of concrete evidence only deepened the mystery. Theories abounded. Some speculated that Cooper was a skilled skydiver, while others believed he had no chance of survival in the treacherous conditions. The case, once a top priority for the FBI, slowly transitioned into one of the Bureau's most perplexing cold cases. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe our YouTube channel Into the World for more interesting and informative videos.